Do you think humanity is limited to its small planet, that the cosmos is empty and silent? Think again. 3 organizations conduct secret research on Mars. GIGANTIA, with its aqua-green pyramid, Red Dragon, with its red dragon paw, and we, the Purple Lagoon, with the purple vortex, a portal to the unknown. We seek something beyond the boundaries of human science, in a land now inhabited by immortal creatures that challenge our understanding of time and space. During an expedition, we touched what we shouldn't have. We found a buried pyramid and unleashed Horus, an ancient being. But our discovery attracted the wrath of Anubis, a cosmic being of chaos and destruction. Horus revealed that Anubis was the embodiment of chaos, and his sister Ra appeared to help us, but with plans darker than we had imagined. She didn't just want to destroy Anubis, she also intended to alter humanity's fate, promising a techno-biological evolution that would turn us into something beyond human. Before leaving with Horus, Ra gave us a monolith, a quantum artifact capable of altering reality. But it was stolen, not by cosmic beings, but by space pirates who didn't understand the power they carried. The monolith disappeared, and a new threat emerged. Something colossal is coming to Mars. They are not pirates or conquerors. Its magnitude warps space and time, an immense ship making everything else seem insignificant. Now I, a simple man, find myself between humanity and these unknown forces. I've been placed here to decide the future of our species, but every day I wonder, how far should I go? Horus, Ra, Anubis, maybe it was all just a piece of a bigger plan I can't comprehend. This new presence in Mars' sky might be our salvation or our damnation. I don't know anymore. The cosmic war we never imagined is just beginning. The sky of Mars, tinged with the planet's eternal red, was dominated by something beyond comprehension. A colossal ship, larger than any human structure, tore through the sky with a presence that made the ground beneath our feet tremble. There were no sounds of engines, only a deep murmur, almost like a chant reverberating through the fabric of space. In the face of that manifestation, I felt smaller than ever. I thought of humanity's achievements, rockets, space stations, bases on Mars, all seemed insignificant now. That presence didn't need force to show our smallness. And I, the scientist, the decoder of cosmic enigmas, could only think of how fragile I was in that moment. If it wanted to destroy us, it would have done so already, Gray murmured beside me, his posture as rigid as always, but there was tension in his voice. Even he, the soldier trained for any scenario, couldn't completely hide the weight of that presence. I nodded slightly but said nothing. There was nothing to say. There was nothing to do but wait. The ship settled on the horizon, its monumental shape obscuring the Martian sun. Its surface was black like space, but with blue details pulsating like veins of living energy. It didn't seem built, but born, something alive and incomprehensible. The silence that followed was deafening. Gray adjusted his weapon, knowing it was useless, while I fought to control my breath. My hands were cold inside the gloves, and a light sweat began to form on my brow. I tried to hide my unease, but I knew I wouldn't fool anyone, especially General Gray. He descended, the cosmic being, an incomprehensible presence, an entity whose stories resided in the oldest myths of humanity and the cosmos. He did not walk, he advanced as if space itself bent beneath his feet. His attire, or perhaps his very skin, was adorned with golden and bluish details, like a cosmos encapsulated in a body. His face was a mask of royalty, with eyes that shone like dying stars, carrying the weight of millennia of existence. His height was imposing, about 3 meters, enough to make us look up, yet not grotesque. There was harmony in his form, a perfection only a superior being could possess. In one hand he held something resembling a scepter, but it pulsed with incomprehensible energy, as if each movement could alter the very flow of the universe. When he stopped before us, I felt something beyond fear. It was an overwhelming weight, a consciousness that exposed all my thoughts, insecurities, and doubts, like an open book. There was no place to hide. I looked at Gray, whose posture remained rigid, but I could see in his eyes that he felt the same. The cosmic being watched us in silence for a few seconds that felt like eternity. Then he spoke. His voice, deep as thunder, yet carrying the weight of past eras, fallen empires, and decisions that shaped entire galaxies. Each word didn't just echo in our ears, but within me, as though it spoke directly to the essence of who I was. "You two represent your species well," he said. Surprisingly, his voice sounded understandable in our minds, echoing in the Martian silence. He looked at Gray, a warrior, always alert, always ready to fight or flee. Then he turned to me, and I felt his attention like a beacon that illuminated me completely. "And you, a doctor, a man of science, of progress, just like my sister." My body froze. He was speaking of Ra, but before I could say anything, he continued, "You are just a piece in her game. Her goals are the same as they were in past eras, and she surely hasn't revealed everything to you." My mind spun. He was right. There had always been something about Ra I couldn't fully understand, something she kept hidden from me. But then, driven by a sudden rage, perhaps because of the cosmic being's attempt to manipulate me, perhaps by the desperation to maintain my sanity in that moment, I retorted, "If you're saying that, why should I believe you?" The cosmic being tilted his head slightly, as if my response were a curious animal worthy of attention for a brief moment. "She told you she would evolve your humanity, didn't she?" he asked, and I couldn't hide my surprise. "How do you know?" I murmured, my voice weak. "I know her plans. You don't have to believe me, but one thing is certain. I have no interest in your tiny world. We've ruled there once. My interest is something much greater." I wanted to ask if he could promise not to touch humanity, but the question died before it reached my lips. What would be the value of a promise from such an ancient being? To him, words were mere tools, winds shaped by his will. I knew asking for his word would be as futile as trying to hold back a storm with bare hands. The cosmic being watched us again, this time with a more lingering gaze. First Gray, with his upright and combative posture, then me, whose synapses seemed to spark like fireflies in my mind. He smiled, or something close to it. "You are a warrior," he said, pointing at Gray. "I can tell by your posture." Then he turned to me. "And you, Abyss, are what they call a doctor, a man of science, of progress, just like my sister. And you know that for those who venture into the field of science, some choices are irreversible." His words were like a blade cutting through what remained of my defenses. He was right. There had always been something in me that ignored limits in the name of discovery, something I tried to suppress, but that still existed. And in that moment, I couldn't shake the feeling that he knew more about me than I did myself. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice almost imperceptible against the vastness that stretched before us. "My name is Osiris," he answered, and for the first time I noticed something human in his speech. There was a humility in his words, a tone that, though imposing, didn't carry the arrogance of the cosmic gods I had once known. He stood before me, but he didn't seem to wish to impose himself, as if his very existence were a reality that needed no defense. "My siblings Horus and Ra, those who remain, are out there," he continued, with a slight gesture of his hand that seemed to reach beyond the horizon. "They walk with a power they never imagined, naively. They don't know what they are about to unleash." I stayed silent for a moment. The weight of his words seemed to resonate in the air, and a tension I couldn't measure spread through every atom around us. "Then you know Anubis?" I asked, my voice trying to escape a mix of apprehension and curiosity. The mere thought of invoking the name of that Egyptian god, always associated with the end and the beyond, gave me a strange sense of alertness. Osiris's expression changed. A faint shadow crossed his face, and his eyes, once bright like dying stars, now seemed focused on nothing, fixed on something only he could see. He glanced around, and suddenly the landscape, which had seemed inert until then, took on a new meaning. The destroyed base, the remnants of the zombies, everything now carried the imprint of an older memory. Osiris' eyes gleamed, and his voice echoed with a calmness that was almost unsettling. "The dogs of Anubis," he murmured, as if recalling something distant, something only he could understand. "Their remains are familiar." He slowly turned to face me, his gaze piercing, as if he could see more than just the space around us. "We will have a common enemy, Dr. Abyss." He stepped forward, and his presence seemed to expand, invading every corner of my mind. "You had contact with the monolith, didn't you?" His voice seemed to vibrate in my cells. "You felt what it is, what it can do. Now, you have a choice," he said firmly, continuing. "You will come to my ship, help my servants track the monolith, or you will watch this planet be destroyed." The question was clear, objective, like an ultimatum. Something told me the consequences of this choice would not be limited to Mars, not even to my own existence. The tension in the atmosphere was palpable. I knew that any decision could trigger a reaction that might alter the course of everything. But at the same time, I felt as though, in some way, I no longer had control over what was happening around me. The fate of Mars, humanity, perhaps even my own fate, was now intertwined with that cosmic being and the mystery of the monolith. His voice reverberated through space, and for a moment I felt the gravity of his words, as if the fate of humanity was in my hands. I knew time was running out, that I could no longer escape this situation. But then something inside me ignited, a spark of desperation, and at the same time, a strategy I hadn't planned. The only chance of survival was if I could bring others with me. Whatever was coming, I couldn't face it alone. If there was anything to be done, I would need allies. There were no more ships, no technology to rebuild, and no way to communicate with Earth. The only option was to risk everything. I looked at Gray, who seemed to be calculating every move like an experienced warrior, but I could also see that he was beginning to understand that there was no way out for us anymore. But something still burned in me, one last desperate play. "I'll go," I said, my voice firmer than I felt, but with one condition. Osiris slightly inclined his head, a gesture of curiosity. His eyes, vast as the cosmos, were attentive to every word. "Speak, Doctor," his voice echoed, still calm, but with a hint of challenge. "Take with me the survivors from Red Dragon, Gigantia, and Purple Lagoon," I said quickly, knowing he would understand the weight of my proposal. "All of them. I won't go forward alone. If you want my help, you'll have to accept this." I knew it was a risky bet. As someone of my caliber, a scientist with so much knowledge of what was at stake, I should never make such a demand. But it was the only chance to gain something I still didn't fully understand. If survival depended on collaborating with Osiris, I would do so, but not without a price. "Do you dare make a demand, Doctor?" His voice was deep, like distant thunder. "You ask not only to save yourself, but to bring everyone with you, to who knows where." I knew he was aware of the magnitude of my proposal, but there was no time to ponder. I had made my choice, and I knew that the answer he gave me now might be the only chance to escape the impending destruction. "Yes," I said, feeling the crushing pressure increase. "If you're going to help me, you'll have to help them all, and in return I'll do whatever it takes to help with whatever you need, but not alone." For a moment, reality seemed to distort, as if time itself hesitated, waiting for the final decision of a being beyond human comprehension. Then finally, Osiris spoke. "You risk much, Dr. Abyss, but I accept your condition." I felt my body relax for a brief moment. Something had changed, and the future now became a field of possibilities. I didn't know what awaited me, nor what lay behind Osiris's proposal, but one way or another, we would be in this together. With a subtle gesture, he raised his hand, and a massive wave of energy began to emanate from the ship. The survivors from the three organizations, Red Dragon, Gigantia, and Purple Lagoon, who were scattered and disorganized, be enveloped by a golden and bluish light, as if an invisible force field had grabbed them, uniting them with us. Now Osiris said, his voice grave and deep, "You will come with me. But remember, Doctor, as you said, whatever comes, you will be under my protection or under my punishment." The feeling of displacement was instantaneous, a sensation of being pulled into the unknown, as if reality were twisting around us, and I knew there would be no turning back. And at that moment, the sky of Mars, the monolith, and the threats of destruction were left behind, becoming mere shadows of an uncertain future. What would come next, I didn't know. But one thing was certain, this was the only chance to survive. And perhaps it would be the last opportunity to uncover what was truly at stake. Then the void swallowed us. And the story would continue, but now, the real fight was about to begin.